Hello again, Ice and Fire Miniatures Wargamers. Kolvox here, giving you an update on our version 0.3 test campaign of the Milestone Campaign League system. And we're going to start with a sneak peek of the digital campaign map. As you can see, the handmade map from before is now completely digitized. We've got the legend here. We've got all of the realms, regions, and even development and castle markers added. But obviously everything can be recolored as we go, and at the end of this video I'll be showing you the state of our test campaign map at the end of month 1. Again, a major long-term goal for the campaign is to have digital app support where all of your campaign league players could be linked together via mobile app that would automatically have these visual updates that you could check on. All right, jumping right into the month 1 council phase recap. First of all, a little bit of backstory for our particular league. A lot of the table talk between players before the start of our league was that faction leaders would most likely try to play their factions in a very canon, story-friendly type of a way during this campaign. You'll see as we go through it, that did not turn out to be the case, especially for month 1. So month 1, council phase began. King Robert is dead, killed by a boar. How did the major factions of Westeros vie for power? Well, the campaign launched with violence as it was revealed that the Martells had sent envoys to King's Landing to broker a deal with the Lannisters. Of course, although overtures may have happened before the start of the game, much of this diplomacy did take place at the table during council phase, exactly as it is meant to. And this meant that astute, observant players, particularly the Free Folk faction leader, noticed this diplomacy happening and had some major issues with it. So the terms of the treaty between the Lannisters and Martells in our campaign seemed to be that the Lannisters would offer 2 small council seats to the Martells. They gave Doran Martell Master of Laws, and they named Oberyn Martell as the Hand of the King. In exchange, the Martells would essentially become military allies of the Lannisters and aid them in the south, ostensibly keep enemies from threatening the Lannisters in the south. So you have the Free Folk faction leader essentially call this out to everyone else at the table and point out the major threat of the Lannisters and Martells teaming up in such a strong way this early in the game. Jumping on board, you have the Starks, who are obviously offended at the removal of Eddard Stark as Hand of the King. And a lot of the diplomatic table talk heads to the conclusion that a North versus South war is brewing. So the Starks and the Free Folk both reaching out to Night's Watch and Bolton's, essentially saying, hey, these major powers in the South are teaming up. We need to do the same. And this sort of rhetoric really catches on at the table. The Baratheons are a little bit hesitant to get fully in league with the South because they have had Renly Baratheon just removed from the small council as Master of Laws, so they're certainly slighted by that. And the Martells and Lannisters are on either side of them, so of course there's a question of what does it mean for the Martells to be protecting the Lannisters? Does that mean that if the Baratheons move against the Lannisters, that the Martells will hit them in the back? So this is a big diplomatic question mark. As a result, the Baratheons actually joined the Starks and the Night's Watch in contributing might to the abandoned castles at the Wall, allowing the Night's Watch to restore 3 abandoned castles in month 1. The Night's Watch restore Hoarfrost Hill, Icemark, and the Night Fort. The Greyjoys named their 2 starting fleet captains. First, they named Euron using his signature flagship Silence with the support of Harlaw and deployed him into Iron Man's Bay. Second, they deployed Victarion Greyjoy, sailing his signature, the Iron Victory, with the support of Orkmont in the Sunset Sea. The Lannisters facilitated the auction of neutral characters. However, maybe due to the fact that all factions had their full array of characters because it was the start of the campaign, no factions elected to bid on neutral characters at this point. This could have also been because everyone's amount of starting coin is lower than it will be later in the campaign. Because of that, Varys and Peter Baelish remained in service to the Lannisters because, of course, the assignment of their council spots counts as a coin equivalent value to retain them. After collecting gold from their gold mines, the Lannisters did perform flaunted wealth and ended up with +3 might as a result of being 3 coin wealthier than the next wealthiest faction. Now, at that point, something very interesting happened. Because they gained 3 might from a single source, the Martells leapt on the opportunity and named the Lannisters in the subversion intrigue. This created a lot of questions around the table as to whether that was part of the original deal between the Martells and the Lannisters or not, because it certainly signals that the Lannisters will be losing a fair amount of might as the Martells siphon that out of them through the subversion intrigue. The Lannisters then used the Lannister power of coin effect for their own faction, which is called Inflated Promises, which doubles the amount of might that they would gain from flaunted wealth. However, because the Martells had activated Subversion Intrigue, the siphoning already begins. So at that point, the Lannisters only gain +2 might, and the Martells siphon off that 1 might for themselves. Moving on to the Targaryens, they went ahead and declared field warfare as the war focus for month 1. So that telegraphs to the whole table that this month, when facing the Targaryens, you're going to be seeing a lot of Dothraki, potentially some Unsullied as well, and wherever Khal Drogo ends up, you do not want to be on that battlefield. Okay, moving on to the Baratheons, they purchased developments in Rook's Rest, High Tide, which is getting renamed Driftmark. Is High Tide is the castle, Driftmark is the development. Sharp Point, Greenstone, Night Song and Blackhaven, Griffin's Roost, Haystack Hall, Evenfall Hall, Horn Hill, and Shield Islands. So here we have the Baratheons really playing into their strength, which is map control, locking things down, defending, and holding and harvesting resources from as much territory as possible. The Martells, looking to make good on their starting coin, do a bit of the same and go ahead and purchase the developments in Ironwood, Sandstone, and Skyreach. Up in the north, the Starks purchased developments in Mormont Keep, White Harbor, Wintertown, and Deepwood Motte. The Free Folk set up and revealed their motivation tracks with a heavy emphasis on desperate migration. The faction leader made sure to play each of the commanders to their strengths. So starting with Mag the Mighty on the Old Ways track, he gives 2 spaces instead of 1. You got Mag, Harma, and Steer on the Old Ways. Free Folk only played Rattleshirt on the Death to Kneelers track, so just using his double effect there to cover the debuffs and cancel those out, and then putting everybody else into Desperate Migration. So that's Mance giving 2 spots, Tormund, Great Walrus, Weeper, and Varamir 6 skins all going into Desperate Migration for some really big buffs there. That does actually fill up the whole track, so you're getting buffs on everything, just consulting their strategy sheet here. Free Folk, Raiders, Trappers, Spearwife, the Matriarch, everything, up to and including that last huge bonus of all Free Folk commanders, +5, However, the debuff, every combat unit suffers 2 wounds after deployment. So just cashing in on that horde play. Again, like the Targaryens, telegraphing to everyone at the table, hey, when you fight the free folk in month 1, prepare for high activation lists and really getting swarmed by low cost units. The Baratheons chiming back in here. The Baratheons went ahead and declared both the Reach and the Stormlands as declared realms for Renly, and declared Crowned Lands as a declared realm for Stannis. So indicating that Renly play is going to be a little bit stronger this month than Stannis play, but still leaving both brothers somewhat viable. So with that, there wasn't a lot left to declare in month 1 council phase. Of course, you have the Boltons with their starting schemes, which are quite low. Not a lot of activity for them there. You have the Brotherhood not really able to initiate or facilitate any trials by combat or anything like that. And so the Milestone Campaign League test group went ahead and rolled right on through to month 1 challenge phase. So starting off month 1 challenge phase, we're going from the lowest might rank player, that's Brotherhood, and they, of course, because they're the lowest might rank player, get to choose the first event. They go ahead and choose event 15, Sequester Foe, and they deploy Beric Dondarrion onto the King's Road. So smart move, trying to gobble up some of that territory in the Riverlands. Of course, the Riverlands developments tend to have perks for Brotherhood units, and they for sure want to capitalize on those. At this point, no other factions counter that challenge, and so the Brotherhood elects to conquer, and they go ahead and take the Crossroads in. Because this is a Brotherhood conquer of a development and not any other faction conquering a region, the Brotherhood do not have to pay the traditional 2 might in order to take it over. Next up in might rank, it goes to number 9. That's going to be the Night's Watch, and they roll that nat 20. They get Lavish Tourney. They do something a little interesting here, and they pass the hosting of the Lavish Tourney to Starks. Sort of as a diplomatic overture. Again, at this point, I think the northern factions, the Free Folk, the Night's Watch, the Boltons, are all trying to sort of play nice and fortify their alliance, again, leaning into this north versus south theme. As a result, the Starks elect to host the Lavish Tourney in the Neck. Several factions immediately jump in to contribute champions to the tourney. The Baratheons send Brienne of Tarth, who has a great character trait that's going to boost her there. The Greyjoys follow suit and do Carl, also getting a character trait boosting there. The Martells send Elia Martell. The Starks send Eddard Stark. The Boltons send Steelshanks Walton. The Night's Watch send Sir Dennis Mallister. And the Free Folk send Tormund Giantsbane. Wild finish here. Tormund Giantsbane himself comes away as the winner, gaining Free Folk +2 might and +1 coin. The Starks gain +1 coin for hosting, and shockingly, no participants injured. One of the luckiest lavish tourneys you'll probably ever see. So once the lavish tourney is resolved, the Night's Watch need to go ahead and put forth their challenge. They declare a protective challenge and set him aside. Spoiler alert, that protective challenge never gets triggered throughout the rest of month 1 challenge phase. Next up, we have the Boltons, who go ahead and roll 19 Flesh Wound. A lot of times that's going to be a great roll, but not in month 1, where nobody's injured. The Boltons put forth Ramsay Snow, and they challenge in the Fingers. Now, this is interesting. It sort of gets everybody's antenna up because it looks like a land grab of the Vale, which is a very smart, very bold move for the Boltons. It gets a lot of table talk going, a lot of concern from other factions who don't want to see the Boltons just sweep through and grab potentially a whole free realm. However, nobody actually responds in time. Everybody's kind of hoping that another faction will step in and contest the veil, and nobody does. As a result, the Boltons go ahead and take the uncontested conquer of the fingers and pay that 2 might. Next up, you've got the Greyjoys. They go ahead and send forth Victarion Greyjoy. Remember, I mentioned he's acting as a fleet captain at this time in the Sunset Sea, and they put him forth in a challenge of Crake Hall down here. Now, this is the first, of course, player on player attack, and so a lot of chatter about that because the Greyjoys have not declared for the North or South in terms of those two big alliances. And so the North gets really excited at this point, sort of thinking, hey, the Greyjoys are sort of declaring for the North. I think things later on sort of reveal that the Greyjoys are playing a little bit more mercenary than that. However, their first move is a bold one against the Lannisters. Forgot to mention they roll a 9 here. They get Clever Ruse, which always makes countering tricky, although they play it straightforward in this case. As a result of this, the Lannisters go ahead and counter with Gregor Clegane in a skirmish here. Our Lannister faction leader loves playing Gregor Clegane, so this is seen as a strong defense, although an interesting choice to go with a skirmish here rather than a challenge. And then you have another big surprise. You have the Targaryens not waiting for their turn to come around, going ahead and jumping in with, yes, Khal Drogo supporting Victarion, but with a skirmish. So you have the Targaryens who, again, are not aligned with North or South. So big question mark in everybody's mind: are they playing mercenary, or is this them sort of declaring for the North? But then going with a skirmish instead of a challenge, which you would think that the Targaryens would be challenging, looking to pick up conquers. Um, this sort of leads to the conclusion for many that this was just a straight up act of support of the Greyjoys, maybe some sort of diplomatic olive branch with them to say, hey, I'm going to send my best army to support you, and I'm going to let you take the region when we win. I'm not even going to fight for it. I'm just going to do a skirmish. So as a result of that, the Lannisters call up their allies in their treaty. They call for the Martells, and the Martells answer, sending Daemon Sand to support Gregor, also with a skirmish. So there you have the first player versus player set up. You have Victarion and Khal Drogo. They're going to be facing off against Gregor and Daemon. Immediately after that, it is the Martell's turn in might rank order to put forth a challenge. And they send Harmon Uller to challenge Harrenhal. They roll a 16 for keen scouting, and nobody can test them. So you have the Martells and Brotherhood sort of starting to take up territory in the Riverlands. The Martells spend 2 might to conquer Harrenhal and take control of it for Sunspear. Moving up the might rank ladder, we get to Free Folk, and they send the Weeper to challenge Haunted Forest. They roll a 13 and get Auxiliary Masons, a very clutch grab for them. And of course, there's some tabletop going on at this point about this Northern Alliance solidifying. Typically, both the Free Folk and the Night's Watch are going to be pretty eager to get their hands on the Haunted Forest, because whichever one of them controls it gets to use Craster, and the other one is out of luck. But because of the sort of diplomatic warmth as both northern factions at this time, the Night's Watch actually do not counter that. The Weeper gets the conquer for Free Folk. They go ahead and pay that -2 might. And then, because they've got Auxiliary Masons, they immediately get that Craster's Keep upgrade. Huge gains for the Free Folk early on. Moving on to the Starks roll the dreaded one, Treacherous Conditions, the battle type nobody wants to play, where all participants' chances of death are up, and they go ahead and send Eddard Stark down to the Trident. Now, of course, Eddard Stark, the smart month one play. Whether or not the Starks are intending on using the sacrifices and retaliation system, if you play Eddard Stark and you win and you want to keep him, cool. Eddard Stark's just racking up wins for you. If you play Eddard Stark and you lose him, cool. That retaliation kicks in for free. So you hate to roll treacherous conditions, but under the circumstances, it's kind of the perfect thing for you. Now, at this point, the Brotherhood does not take too kindly to that. Brotherhood faction leader is eager to sort of solidify the Southern Alliance or manifest a Southern Alliance in the way that the Northerners have, and so they put forth Beric Dondarrion. However, just in a skirmish there to sort of defend the Trident and try and keep Eddard Stark from taking it. The Starks immediately call for aid from their northern allies, and the Night's Watch answers the call. They come in with a challenge. They roll a 6 and get all or nothing. They send Dennis Mallister down there to support him. Now, this is the first place where I'm going to point out a rules error on the referee's part. I particularly did not catch this. However, in hindsight, Dennis Mallister had been sent to participate in the lavish tourney in the neck. That being his first action for the month would have tied him to the realm of the North, which would mean he's ineligible to participate down in the Trident. So this is just something that we discuss later. Live and learn, trying to memorize these character rules and how movement happens. It didn't end up being a huge factor, but just working out the kinks of the test campaign. So like I said, the Brotherhood really calling for aid from the South, trying to appeal to the idea of a Southern alliance to stand strong against the North, and they get their wish. The Lannisters come to their aid. They send Adam Marbrand in a challenge to support Beric Dondarrion. The Lannisters roll 11, Agitated Rebellion. And that sets up a nasty 2v2 in the Trident. The Lannisters at this point go ahead and trigger another Power of the Coin effect, this time the one targeted at the Brotherhood. It's called Bandit Racketeering, and they go ahead and declare that buff for this battle. Next up, it's the Lannisters' turn. We're getting near the top of the might rankings here, and the Lannisters are pretty concerned about the Boltons pushing in on the Vale here. They want to put a stop to that. They want to claim the Vale for themselves. And so they go ahead and send Tywin Lannister to the Mountains of the Moon. They roll a 7 for downed ravens. And that move reveals that the Boltons are serious about contesting and taking the Vale. The Boltons counter challenge with Roose Bolton. So you got the two patriarchs of the Lannisters and the Boltons facing off there. And they roll a 4 for local sellswords. The Lannisters call for aid. And the Martells respond with Oberyn Martell. They challenge in support of Tywin against Roose. They roll a 12 for elite mercenary contracts. You have both local sellswords and elite mercenary contracts. Huge potential for neutral inclusion in this battle. And the free folk coming in on the side of the North, the Great Walrus skirmishing to support Roose against Tywin. Next turn by might rank goes to the Baratheons, who are still a little bit confused about this alliance situation and who exactly they're fighting for. They go ahead and declare a protective challenge with Renly Baratheon, and because there are multiple versions, they have to declare which one. They choose Renly Baratheon 1, that's Charismatic Heir. They roll Lying in Wait and set him aside. Now, unlike that earlier protective challenge, this one gets picked up immediately. So Jorah Mormont gets sent out by the Targaryens now that it's their turn. They use their challenge. They roll a 2, getting drunken revelry, and they send Jorah Mormont right into Baratheon territory here at Brightwater. Because both the Baratheons and Targaryens are sort of tentative in their alliances at this point, nobody jumps in on either side, and so that battle is set up as a 1v1. Now that we're at the top of the might rankings, might rank 1 for the Targaryens. Of course, they get back-to-back turns. They use their next turn and they put forth, they roll an 18, get Raiding Party, and put forth Grey Worm right up here at Pendrick Hills. So again, sort of solidifying this attack of the southwest coast. An interesting move by the Targaryens to sort of put all of their eggs in one basket, so to speak. They hit the Pendrick Hills. Of course, the Lannisters countered them there, but again, just with a skirmish, sending out Kevin Lannister against them. And the Targaryens ask for help from the Greyjoys, trying to tighten up that relationship. It works. The Greyjoys come in with Euron Greyjoy from Iron Man's Bay. And the Greyjoys are going to go ahead and do a challenge. They roll 3, get Destructive Stormfront, a great faction to get Destructive Stormfront, which is normally a harmful thing to the faction who rolled it, but Pike is immune to its effects, and that's the only thing that they hold right now. And now that the Targaryens have declared themselves as sort of enemies of the Baratheons decide to link up with the Lannisters and send Stannis Baratheon to skirmish in support of Kevin, setting up a 2v2 fight there in Pendrick Hills. The Brotherhood at this time declares that they're going to use Ghost of High Heart's Fatal Prophecy. That's a special trait, and they do something interesting with it here. So the Fatal Prophecy basically declares a character that is prophesied to die. And if the Brotherhood is correct in that prophecy, then the Brotherhood gets might. If the Brotherhood is incorrect in that prophecy, then the faction who has that character that survives gains might. And so the Brotherhood sort of used the reverse tactic here. They put Fatal Prophecy on Stannis, but they do it as an intended boon for the Baratheons. They give the Baratheons a heads up, say, hey, we're putting Fatal Prophecy on Stannis, so play safe with him, play smart for him, and get yourself a might boost because you are a Southern power and we want to be part of this Southern alliance. So interesting play by them. Moving down the might rank order now, coming to the Starks, you have Great John Umber getting set aside in a protective challenge, and the Starks roll 17 construction boon. So the challenge never ends up getting picked up by anyone else here, but because they got construction boon, they go ahead and grab a free development. They choose Logging Camp here in Last Hearth. Moving on to the Martells, they're going to set aside a commander in a protective challenge. They are going to set aside Gerald Dane to defend any of their territory, and that never ends up getting picked up. Moving on to the Free Folk who have a challenge left, they do a real head scratcher here and put out Mag the Mighty in Iron Oaks. Why is that weird? Well, if you recall, Mag the Mighty is on the Old Ways motivation track, whereas they invested the vast majority of their commanders on Desperate Migration. So Mag not going to have a lot of bonuses here. However, it is a personal favorite of the Free Folk faction leader, so definitely still a threat. And they're putting him out here in Iron Oaks. Not one to stand for any further northern aggression in the Vale. The Lannisters put out Jaime Lannister in a skirmish against him there. The North calls for aid, and Jeor Mormont skirmishes in support of Mag. And the Baratheons again come to the aid of the Lannisters, sending up Justin Massey to to skirmish in support of Jaime. So another 4-player battle set up for Iron Oaks there. Moving on to the Bolton's turn. Concerned about further reprisals and having one challenge left, they set aside Steelshanks Walton in a protective challenge. It does not end up getting taken up by any challenger. Back down to where it all began. The Brotherhood has a challenge left and sends Thoros of Myr to Duskendale. He is uncontested. Nobody seems to be paying much attention to the Crown Lands. Not sure if that's because it's month 1 and they can't threaten King's Landing or exactly what everybody's thinking, but the Brotherhood goes ahead and takes control of the development at Rosby. Brotherhood get a double turn because we're back at another end of the might rank order, and they are going to use their special Brotherhood goodness to challenge twice with the same commander. Thoros of Myr again is going to come up here and challenge Cape of Eagles. Not only can he challenge twice, but because he's a Brotherhood character, he doesn't have those usual location restrictions. He can zip zap all over the map. He comes up here to Cape of Eagles. He's not intercepted on his way. And again, uncontested in the Riverlands. They're going to take control of the development at Seaguard. Things are starting to move a little bit faster here as a lot of factions are passing on their turns, not wanting to put out any more commanders. We get back to Free Folk who have a challenge left, and they send Mance Raider to challenge at Skagos. That's right, Skagos may technically be a part of the North, but for the purposes of this game, it is beyond the wall. There's a lot of wild folks there, and Mance is taking advantage. He is uncontested and takes control of Skagos for the Free Folk. The last declaration of month 1 challenge phase here is pretty much everybody runs out of commanders that they want to send, is that the Free Folk send Steer to skirmish way down here in Ashford. So an odd play. It starts out neutral. Of course, you're in the Reach, but you're right next to the Stormlands. You're right next to Dorne. Got the Southerners wondering what the heck the plan is there. And it's going to be the Baratheons that answer because they're the first to be threatened. And they go ahead and send Renly Baratheon 3, so Renly King of the South, to counter that skirmish there in Ashford. That's the end of month 1 challenge phase. So then we got on to the battles, and one was fought immediately. The same night we resolved the first battle. And that battle was the Battle of the Mountains of the Moon. Now, for a lot of players, this was the first time that they had played all the way through a battle with the special rules for the Milestone Campaign League. Now, the Mountains of the Moon, one of the special rules there is a compressed map size. You're literally fighting in a 2-foot wide sort of mountain pass gorge type scenario rather than your typical setup, and that proved to absolutely wreck some of the players' strategies. So Roose Bolton and Great Walrus win a decisive victory, so just one tick below a total victory there, over Tywin Lannister and Oberyn Martell in the Mountains of the Moon. So as a result of that, the Boltons, of course, get 4 might for the decisive victory, and they immediately spend 2 of it on getting the Conqueror of Mountains of the Moon. Now, it just so happens that the character Grunt was off the board at the end of the battle and fails the death save. So Grunt is the first named character to be killed and completely removed from the campaign. The Free Folk take their +4 might for the decisive victory, and the opponents don't go home empty-handed. So the Lannisters brought Tommen to the fight. As a result of him surviving, they gain +2 might. They would gain +3, but again, Martells with Subversion Intrigue go ahead and siphon one of those might away. The 2 defeated commanders, that would be Tywin and Oberyn, withdraw from Mountains of the Moon to King's Road, so moving back to the Riverlands. The Lannisters go ahead and activate Tywin's Lion's Pride effect on Roose Bolton. looking for revenge against him later. In terms of veterancy, the Martells take a Sunspear Royal Guard unit with Quentin Martell attached. They name that Gold Legion. They roll a Veteran 1. First veteran unit of the campaign. The Lannisters take a Lannister Guardsman unit with a Guard Captain attached. They name that Tywin's Fist. They get Veteran 3. The Boltons take a Blackguards unit with Roose Bolton himself, Commander version attached. They name them the Finger Snatchers. And the Free Folk do not get a veteran unit because, of course, they were only skirmishing. Quentin Martell takes home +1 might for Dornish Prince, and Arianne Martell, who was also used, takes home +1 might for the Martells for Dornish Noble. So the Martells not going home empty-handed there. Okay, the next battle to get resolved here is the Battle of Brightwater, the 1v1 against the Baratheons and the Targaryens. The Baratheons, of course, using Renly Charismatic Heir, and he is going to get a total victory over Jorah Mormont at Brightwater. Now, this was the first break the siege battle of the campaign, with the Baratheons defending the castle. They get swarmed by Dothraki cavalry and are able to basically clear the field. So Jorah Mormont is injured during that battle, but passes his death save. The Targaryens also send the dragon Drogon, who is off the board at the end of that battle, but because of dragon traits, does not go away injured. The Baratheons use Marjorie Tyrell and Alistair Florent, earning them +3 might for Reach Noble, and Alistair earns +1 coin from Capable Stewardship. The Targaryens get +1 might because of bringing Illyrio Mopatis via his Foreign Noble character trait. The Baratheons get a veteran unit upgrade. They take a Champions of the Stag unit, get Veteran 5, and rename them Champions of the Sun. The next battle to get resolved is the 2v2 at the Trident, and here Adam Marbrand and Beric Dondarrion score just a close victory over Eddard Stark and Dennis Mallister. Eddard and Dennis withdraw to Riverrun. During the battle, the Brotherhood purchased some mercenaries, costing a coin. The Lannisters choose to conquer the Trident, taking control of it, and using up 2 of their might, so they only gain +1 might rather than +3. The Brotherhood just take their +3 might for the victory. The Starks gain 1 might for the close defeat. The Night's Watch don't gain any might for the close defeat because their challenge effect was all or nothing. During this battle, both Syrio Farrell and Brendan Tully are injured. Syrio uses his character trait Like Water on Thoros of Myr, which causes Thoros to be injured as a result of the battle. Catelyn Stark earns +1 might from Northern Noble. Eddard's Honor Guard earn a might from Northman Spirit. Dennis Mallister earns a might from Knight at the Wall. Aemon earns +3 might for the Night's Watch and +3 might for the Starks from Value of the Oath. Ravella Smallwood earns +3 might for Riverlands Noble and +1 coin for Capable Stewardship. Pycelle earns +1 might for the Lannisters for Citadel's Prestige and uses questionable remedies on NCU Catelyn Stark, who is brought out by the Starks, but fails to injure her. She passes her save. In terms of veteran units, the Lannisters upgrade a Casterly Rock Honor Guard unit with Adam Marbrand Commander version attached and name them Marbrand Honor Guard, getting Veteran 3. The Starks use a unit of Stark Bowmen with Jojen Reed attached, renaming those Whispering Death and getting Veteran 7. That is going to be a nasty unit when it pops up again later. The Night's Watch get Sir Dennis Mallister in Veterans of the Watch and get Veteran 8, renaming them Veterans of the Shadow Tower. The next battle to get resolved here is the Battle of Crakehall. Now, this is the first battle that we get resolved without an actual fight, and taught the group a lot about how to handle that going forward. So here we have the commanders meeting and negotiating a resolution prior to the battle. So Victarion Greyjoy and Khal Drogo each earn +3 might and walk away with a close victory here. Gregor Clegane and Damon Sand each earn +1 might for a close defeat. So you're going to see more detailed rules about resolving battles without formally playing them out in the 1.0 rule book. But essentially, when that happens, you don't get to pick a bunch of extra characters to bring. You only get the commander's effects, and nobody gets veterancy, even if it was a challenge battle for somebody. And of course, all sides have to agree on what type of victory or defeat they're walking away with. So Victarion Greyjoy and Khal Drogo each earn +3 might for a close victory. Gregor Clegane and Damon Sand each earn +1 might for a close defeat. Gregor withdraws to Clegane's Keep, and Damon Sand withdraws down here to Red Lake. So interesting choice here for the Greyjoys not to conquer. I believe they didn't have the opportunity to sack because Sarsfield had not been purchased by the Lannisters, but still really just walking away here with might. So definitely suspecting that the Lannisters were potentially doing some backroom dealing here. Next battle to get resolved is up here at Pendrick Hills, and this one does get played. Kevin Lannister and Stannis Baratheon score a decisive victory over Grey Worm and Euron Greyjoy in the Pendrick Hills. Baratheons gain +4 might, the Lannisters gain +3 might. The Martells gain +1 from Subversion, taking one away from the Lannisters there. Euron Greyjoy and Dagmar Cleftjaw are both injured during the battle, and Grey Worm is killed. So he's the second character in our Milestone Campaign League to actually get killed. Grey Worm is out of the game. Euron withdraws back to his Iron Fleet in Iron Man's Bay. Now, because of the special rules for fleet captains, Euron gets to stay on the map in Iron Man's Bay even though he is injured. Now, the Targaryens brought Mirri Maz Duur to this fight, and they use her character trait Life Must Pay for Life on herself and Cersei Lannister. Mirri passes her death save. Cersei fails her death save. However, the Lannisters, of course, hold the Grand Maester seat on the small council, which means they use that on Cersei. They get the death save reroll and are able to keep her alive. Meryn Trant participates in the battle for the Lannisters. He gains 1 might for Knight of the Reach. Roderick Harlaw gains +1 might for Ironborn Noble. Stannis Baratheon gains +4 might for surviving despite Ghost of High Heart's fatal prophecy. A couple veteran units get upgraded. The Targaryens get some Dothraki Outriders, who they rename the Dothraki Yellers. They roll veteran 6. The Greyjoys take a unit of silenced men with an attached war sworn and rename them the Sworn Silent, getting veteran 7. Next and final battle to get resolved is the battle over at Iron Oak. So here, Jaime Lannister scores a decisive victory over Mag the Mighty. If you recall, this was originally a 2v2. However, the players get to the table, and if you have supporting armies that are doing skirmishes only, then at either point, either of the original involved parties can just declare it a 1v1, and that's what ends up happening. So it is a forced 1v1, Jaime Lannister versus Mag the Mighty. The Lannisters gain +3 might for the victory. They get a decisive victory. Of course, the Martells siphon off their 1 might for Subversion. No characters are injured, captured, or killed as a result of the battle. Boris Blunt earns an extra +1 might for Knight of the Stormlands. Mag the Mighty and Jeor Mormont withdraw to the Fingers. Only the free folk get a veteran unit upgrade there. They choose one of their giant spear throwers. They get veteran 4, still waiting on an awesome name for that giant spear thrower. And finally, down in Ashford, Steer and Renly do not take the field in their battle. However, it's a skirmish on both sides. Steer withdraws, and it doesn't really matter where he withdraws to, because, spoiler alert, in month 2, Steer heads back to reserve for the free folk. They decide they don't want one of their best commanders just frolicking around down in the south with no support. And that's it for month 1 of the Milestone Campaign League test group. Again, we're playing with version 0.3, but we are upgrading a ton of stuff to what we hope is version 1.0 as we go, learning a lot of lessons, getting everybody dialed in on what these new battle types feel like. And here, because we've got an awesome digitized map, I can show you the state of the map in month 2 as a result of everything that happened in month 1. So you can now see free folk holding all this territory up here beyond the wall. You can see that at the end of month 1, the Starks do go ahead and get the sacrifice, which gives them Cape of Eagles, River Run, and the Crossing, so expanding their territory way down there into the Riverlands, trying to rescue them from the Lannisters, who've taken the Trident as a result of that battle. You can see the Martells holding Harrenhal. You can see how things are shaking out in the Vale as a lot of factions are closing in. There's a bit of a spoiler alert for how things go down the challenge phase of month 2. You can see the Baratheons consolidating a bunch of territory. The Martells picking up the Arbor, but we'll go over that in a recap of month 2 as soon as we get month 2 resolved. I hope that this piques your interest. I hope that this encourages people to build Milestone campaign leagues of their own, or maybe join mine for our launch next year for the 1.0 launch. The next videos that I'll be working on are deep dive into each of the strategy sheets for the 10 factions. So hope that you tune back in. Please enjoy the Milestone Campaign League.